If you want to enhance the productivity of your employees, one of the cheapest options available is, of course, generative artificial intelligence. This accessibility, though, needs a kind of training, if you want, also a paid one. In this video, I want to show you how using a tool generally for IT people can enhance the productivity of different kinds of employees, from admins to copywriter. We are inside VS Code, that is, contrary to what I said in other occasions, a code editor and not a working environment like Eclipse or so on. What makes this tool so flexible is the possibility to install extensions. And in this case, we will mostly see one extension for generative artificial intelligence, that is Klein. You install it searching Klein here, then you click Klein, and here you will select install. Then you will need to move the icon inside here, and you will have to go to settings, select your provider. In my case it is Gemini because it is free. Then you go to AI Studio, go to get API key, you create a new key, and you can paste it inside here. You select the model, you can also select the recent one, and then you go to general settings. In my case it is Italian, you can select whatever you want. Here you see custom instructions, but it is not the prompt. This is lack, if you want, of Klein compared to other solutions you probably heard, like Windsurf, Cursor and Try, that I just mentioned in this video because otherwise it comes too long for my aims. Once we have this done, we go to a delicate feature of these extensions of VS Code. You see that I enabled auto approve, and this is a risky option. I enabled read project files, but not all files. I could enable also this. I enable execute safe commands. You could wonder why safe commands, because in the past some people get burned with non-safe commands. So this is also one reason why I said auto approve is risky if you activate also this one. Use the browser, and you can leave MCP unchecked because in my opinion, at the moment of the recording of this video, it is unripe for the public of my channel. If it were a channel just for developers, I would check it and explain it. So Klein, compared to a very similar solution that is RuCode, doesn't have the profiles and other features that are minimal. For example, here you have many options, code, architect and task. Here you have just two. In my opinion, again for the public of this channel, Klein is better than RuCode. I use also RuCode, but maybe I will speak more about it in another video. Now, let's say you want to do something. I want to write do me a data workflow for obtaining data from public site. That is the easiest way to throw away time. Remember, you are talking to artificial intelligence. Artificial means that you have to remind also that if a real person won't do it is the prompt of this, an artificial intelligence won't as well. So you have to give a lot of details about what you want. And the first reasonable start here in Klein on trying Cursor is a bit different if you want to do the things methodological, is create a markdown file with the details of the project I have in mind. Here you see the same counter you see in taxes, and I find it useful and educative. And you see that wisely the model has details like what is the name of the project, what is the project about. So let's say I'm an admin of the company and I want a workflow on how to get public data of a website. I tell you. Technology used, let's leave it for now, also because I want to put myself in the shoes of an admin. Project structure the same. The rest, license, we don't need it. Let's just tell this. This is the website pool with the data, and it is about annual wages. An admin could be interested in this, maybe for a matter of HR task, I don't know, I'm just inventing to show you the capabilities of this extension. And I want data of the last 5 years for Italy and other comparable countries. Let's answer just to this. Let's answer Spain, Greece, France. Data format CSV markdown table. Now, one of the reasons why I tended to prefer this extension to Cursor, Try and so on is that it is a bit slower, also depending on the settings you check that you saw also here. And I know I see some people that border the steps, but read carefully the output. Because if you don't, you could lose a ton of time. That's my suggestion, that I think will age greatly compared to other videos I did on generative artificial intelligence. Launch browser, that is one step of the workflow, I agree. Select the data. This will give problems for sure, for sure. Extract the data. This will give problems again. I don't agree on this step, but this is something an admin can't know. Format the data. Let's say yes that we agree with this plan. Yes, I agree with this plan for now. Please go to act mode and I will execute the plan. On RuCode you have an option that it automatically switch across modes. So again, as I said before, there are some minor differences between the two, Cline and RuCode. So let's switch. I already see a problem, and again, this is a problem of the prompt I gave, and that is it didn't create a file with the workflow we discussed. It didn't even create a folder with the files of the project. You see, it starts to do things I don't want. So let's take some steps back. Create a folder called client test. Then I the details of what messages. Now we get some more reasonable steps, that is make a new folder called client test. I approve, and unfortunately it created it on desktop. It is maybe okay for an admin, not for me, but for the sake of this video, let's leave it here. Of course, later I could move it. You see that immediately created also project details.md, and the MD is markdown that you can view in VS Code with this preview to the side. That is more human readable. And here we see the details. Yes, I see the same criticalities that I mentioned before. Save. I have no idea what browse action mean. Probably it is from this one, not from code of the project. Here we have an error. Let's do retry. It writes down the error it saw, but first let me try the URL in my browser, and of course it doesn't work. Again, you have to check what the artificial intelligence does, otherwise you end in roads you don't want to end. So let's write them. The new URL doesn't work, please use the previous one, and here we have to become technical. Use a library that allows you to get data from a website, or more technical, a library that controls the entire browser. At this point we enter at full speed into the jungle of libraries, dependencies, also depending on the language it chooses to do so. I didn't specify nothing, let's see what happens. I think that with the last message you understand why, yes, this is a free solution, almost free solution to enhance employees, but without training it becomes a time burner. You see that it continues to go to MCP. And no, I don't want you to use MCP servers. It also wanted to create it in TypeScript, that is a language, in my opinion, as a non-developer, it is the most difficult one. For example, it is extremely sensitive to spaces, so I don't think that a simple person can use TypeScript, even with AI, inside a simple code editor like VS Code, unless they have the knowledge to know exactly what extension to install when selecting TypeScript. We can use Python or R libraries. Now, my experience is that since IT people are more than statisticians or data scientists, AIs perform better with Python, because Python is more used by IT people. And I noticed that R more often give problems than Python. So now we see that he created a data extractor Python file that uses Beautiful Soup, that is a common scraping library, and the request, it is a common way to access websites. I don't think it would work, because experience I would say, but let's see what happens. First, of course, I saved the file. Now I believe it will ask to run it, but in order to run it we will have to install this and this, and it is not a trivial thing to do for an admin. You see, it takes for granted that we can run it without problems, and of course it failed, as I suspected. Now it tries to do a debug, it is a troubleshooting. And of course the problem is that it has to find the right part of the site that give us what we want. And of course, as anticipated, it changes the library. It uses Selenium. It is a way to have a virtual browser, and things becomes more difficult. I don't feel particularly hopeful about this attempt. My hypothesis is that it will launch the browser maybe, and then it will most likely fail. Let's say save. Run command. Of course, because we don't have it installed. Now, this is a very dangerous thing, to install libraries on the work computer instead of this single project. Let's try to run this. Of course, pip is not recognized. Let's see if it catches that it has to add Python before pip. No, it doesn't, so I have to do it. Maybe it needs Python before pip. Let's see. Now it works. Whew. Maybe it was not a good idea to start using Klein with such kind of task. Improvisation didn't really help. Let's see if it runs now. As I predicted, table not found, so the problem is inside the code. The browser started, but the code didn't work. Here it starts to do what in Italy we call climbing mirrors. In my opinion, it is typical of Gemini. It tries to debug somehow. So let me go to the website to see the table position, let's call it. This is the X part of the table where you can get your data, and I will skip the steps, 3 clicks on how I did this. Please consider this instead of the 8 you did. I feel more confident about this. Save. Run. Same message as before, but let's see if it goes further. Wow. Okay, so also this attempt failed, and also in my experience I noticed that the Firefox with this library works better than Chrome. I don't feel sure it will solve the problem, but let's give it an attempt. Unfortunately, the so-called vibe coding is what I said in the past on the steroids. That means you shoot many bullets and hopefully some hit the target. And in the past they called it IT approach. And understandably, if you don't know about a topic like Selenium or how to do browser automation, today you don't have a fast options beside this. The non-fast option is to go to the documentation, something that an admin, of course, wouldn't like to do for a matter of time. And this is faster. So as you can see, also this attempt failed because it didn't do a thing at the top. And let's do another try. Notice we are in the free plan of Gemini, and if you use a model that is paid, of course these failed attempts might discourage you, understandably. It failed again, so let's give them this message. Let's directly use the API the website uses, so it also simplifies the code. Again, this is something that an admin can hardly know. Let's see. I expected a major cut of the lines of the code. It did another edit. I didn't have the time to read, honestly. And again, this is the topic of speed I mentioned before. Let's run the code. Series K not found. Of course it failed because instead of approving this, let's show them the page of the documentation of the API. Read this to edit the code with more context. And I believe that now we will see the lines reduction. Planning using the browser, smart thing. I also had the option to paste the entire text of the page inside as a message. Now we have more or less the same number of lines. I don't want to reread it. Also, this is not just an extractor, because we have also functions that do something else. Let's run fail, of course, see how many attempts we did, and we included nothing. Debug road, typical of Gemini. Now it will ask to run again, I guess, with the new output that gives something more than this one. And also the new print didn't show something new. Now it went into a loop. Also, my impression is that using Gemini inside here is somewhat a bit dumber than using it inside AI Studio. It tries to add something else, but I don't think we will get a result. At this point, how many people lose the patience as non-technical people? I guess 90%. See, another fail. Let's see if with this textual input that comes from the documentation it fixes the problem. Save, run, failed. it continues to go into the loop. So again, let's stick to this and just change the URL, use our one. Let's see if just this works. Otherwise, this video becomes a marathon. Let's see if it understands my request, because maybe it's not clear that yes, it understood. So save. I'm not sure about this one, but okay, so this works. What's the lesson here? Sometimes using AI is much more inefficient to reading the documentations of what you would like to do. Now you see that it tries to add the steps eliminated. Hopefully with this more step by step it will work. Run. We have an error. I don't feel sure this will fix the error, so let's say for reference this is how the URL changes if you just select Italy. Do you think your edit still makes sense? My bad, this is actually my bad. Look at this link so you can edit more correctly. These have filters for those two countries. Let's see, I don't feel sure, but let's see if it works. And we have, it seems an improvement. It seems. Let's save this edit. Run. No step forward. Since all failed, let's go back with the version that worked, the one without filters. We could go here in the timeline, we could check the simple version inside here, but I don't see it, so I guess we did a mess with the directory. I don't find it, so that use it adapted to our URL. Okay, save, run. Okay, let me fix one thing. Let's now repeat. Okay, so we have a data frame, and since now we have a data frame, we can filter it from here. So I guess it will filter Italy and the other countries. This road seems much simpler. Much. Let's see. I don't feel confident. In fact, let's restore files and task, and notice that for Italy you have to use ITA. No markdown for now. Let's just see the print of the head with the filter on the nations. Okay, let's see. This convinces me. How will this age? Run. Empty data frame. Yes, I find this smart. Let's see. I don't think this is the final solution. It is just a debug typical again of Gemini. Okay, this is useful. Again, another debug step, run. This is the new debug print. Let's see how it will use it. Oh, I didn't notice this. And then also here. Here and here. Run. Empty. Let's try a simple step. Filter it just for Italy for now. Then we'll expand and see when the problem starts. This is yet another step-by-step approach learned by experience. Okay, save, run, empty. Useless, completely useless edit. We continue to see climbing the mirrors. What I would like to do here is close this. The data extractor doesn't work, it is an empty data frame. Please fix it, because I suspect the context window got polluted, and that is, again, something comes out from my experience. It adds debugging steps, but I give up. Let's say I don't, in the other chat, everything failed, please update the MV file with all the failed attempts. This is useful for who wants to try this in the future. You see how many attempts we did? More than 9. Okay. That's the conclusion of this video, where you saw that even with the use of a not so recent model of JMeter, but it still performs well, we couldn't achieve a task that manually would have taken like 1 minute. Here I consumed more than 1 hour, plus the free tokens that here actually have this amount. Which kind of lessons we got? First of all, that without training, the utility of generative artificial intelligence becomes more limited. If you skip steps, for example, reading the documentation, the artificial intelligence will go down dangerous roads, and if you don't read carefully the outputs and the reasoning, a thing that sometimes I skipped, the AI starts to run in circles, clean the mirrors, and so on. Even though the results are negative, I still find this video useful for those of you who had the patience to go through all the problems that we met for this very simple task for us humans. But at least I introduced you to tools like Rookline, that have an utility not just for writing code, but also for writing articles. For example, if here as files we had all the articles of your blog, or all the conversation you had with the potential clients or clients, the AI could also generalize your way of writing. That's all again, bye and see you the next time.